We are about 2 weeks into November and the holidays are coming quick. Today, I'm going to be talking about over 25 specific Nintendo Switch games that would make great gifts this season. Make sure to stick around to the very end of the video and I'll give about 10-ish games that you want to avoid this year as well. My name is James, and if this is your first time here, please subscribe to my channel so that you can see more videos just like this one. All right. So here's how this video is going to look. I'm going to get started with some kind of general tips and general guidance for buying gifts, for buying Nintendo Switch games as gifts. Then I'm going to get into the actual Switch 1 and Switch 2 games, and those are going to be broken up into 4 categories, which are group games, new players, mass appeal, and skilled players. And then I'll close things out with games you want to avoid this season. As far as general guidance goes, some of this might be a little bit obvious to you, but I want this video to be helpful to people that aren't super familiar with video games. That's why I'm kind of throwing this stuff in here. So as far as general guidance goes, first things first, you're going to want to make sure that they don't already have the game that you're looking at buying for them. If they have a Switch 1, you're not going to want to get them games for a Switch 2 because Switch 2 games don't play on Switch 1. If they have a Switch 2, Switch 1 games do play on Switch 2, but you're going to want to make sure to get the most appropriate version of them if there is a Switch 2 edition of the game available. If you have any kind of concerns about content or messaging or language or anything like that, ratings and reviews do exist for a reason. Every single Switch game will have a rating, and it'll tell you why it received that rating as well, be it cartoon violence or partial nudity or anything like that. So ratings and reviews are things that you're going to want to utilize. If you are having a lot of trouble coming up with a specific game for somebody, I don't think there's anything wrong with getting somebody a gift card. You should know that there are 2 types of gift cards. There are Nintendo eShop gift cards. This lets them go on their Switch to the App Store and download a game. And then alternatively, you could get them a gift card for a store that sells physical copies of games. Like Target, Walmart, Best Buy, GameStop. Physical games are great if you like to share your games with your friends or trade them into stores or sell them or trade them in once you've beaten them. You can't do any of those things with digital games. And then the flip side of that is that your digital games are not going to get lost, damaged, or stolen, or anything like that. My final piece of general advice, this is probably the most important thing that I'm going to say in this video, and that is, so if you don't hear anything else in this video, hear this. The best gift you can get somebody is whatever they ask for. So if they tell you they want a gift card, get them a gift card. If they tell you they don't want a gift card, buy them a game. If they tell you they like a specific series or character or type of game or anything like that, listen to that information, because the more of that information that you can remember and bring with you when you do your shopping, the easier this is going to be for you. And with that out of the way, it is time to start talking about actual video games. So the first section that I want to talk about, I'm going to call this group games. Originally, I was going to call this family games, but I like to call them group games because I think that they could be fun for a group of kids. It could also be fun for me, my wife, and my parents to play, or it could be fun for a group of college roommates to play. That I think that these games in this group section have a really wide appeal. So the first one, I feel like the most obvious one here is going to be Mario Kart. On Switch 1, that would be Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. On Switch 2, that would be Mario Kart World. Both of these Mario Kart games support up to 8 players. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on Switch 1 has been around for a long time, and there's lots of content out there for it. Mario Kart World is the newest Mario Kart that just came out that's only on Switch 2. But it's reasonable to assume that Nintendo is going to continue to support it the way that it has supported Mario Kart 8 over the years. Up next is Nintendo Switch Sports. If you or anybody that you know had a Wii back in the day, and you enjoyed playing Wii Sports, this is a game that you might like as well. One of the downsides here would be probably that I don't think Nintendo Switch Sports would be fun to play solo. Whereas Mario Kart, which I mentioned earlier, I think could be fun with a group or solo. So keep that in mind. Next one is Mario Party, and there's a few different Mario Party games available. On Switch 1, there is Super Mario Party, Mario Party Superstars, and Mario Party Jamboree. I'm going to say that Mario Party Jamboree is your best bet, and if they have a Switch 2, you're going to want to go ahead and get the Switch 2 version, which has better performance and additional content as well. Next is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, because it has tons of content. I think there's 80 different characters, most of which you need to unlock. There's something in there for everybody, and then once again, this game can support up to 8 players. So if they have a bunch of friends over, everybody should be able to play at one time as long as you have enough controllers. And I think that Smash Bros. As a whole is simple enough that pretty much anybody should be able to jump in there and have a good time. Next up is Kirby Air Riders, which is another racing game, and this one is actually not out yet. It comes out on November 20th, so about a week after this video is going to go up. But if you're getting a gift for somebody and they already have Mario Kart and they like that feel of the racing stuff, Kirby Air Riders could be a good gift for them. It is also worth noting that this game is only available on Nintendo Switch 2, so it will not play on Switch 1. And then finally, Overcooked is the final group game. And this one, I put this one at the end here because this game can get a little bit chaotic. This is one of those games that has a reputation for making people fight and get in arguments. So if that's not something, if you're shopping for a gift for your kids or anything, that might not be something that you want for them, but I still think it could be fun. Another reason that this one was kind of at the end here was because this game can be a little bit more complicated than some of the other games, which might not be very fun for somebody who is brand new to video games. I wouldn't ask my grandma to play Overcooked with me, but I might have my grandma play Nintendo Switch Sports with me, or Mario Kart, maybe. Next, I want to talk about games that I would think are good for new players. So this could be somebody who doesn't play a ton of video games, or it could be somebody who might not have the reading level or the attention span to play a single game for a long period of time. The first one is Princess Peach Showtime, where you play as Princess Peach and go through different levels and wear different outfits and get to do all different kinds of stuff in that game. And then the next one is any of the Kirby games. I think there are 3 different Kirby games on Switch, 3 that I know of. Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, and then Kirby Star Allies. And the reason that those ones kind of end up on here is because most of those, you're not really going to be doing a lot of figuring out what to do or getting into conversations with characters. The Kirby games are pretty straightforward as far as what to do. Next is any 2D Mario game, and there's New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, and there's also Super Mario Bros. Wonder. New Super Mario Bros. U is really great for multiplayer. It's a pretty easy game too, and like I mentioned earlier, it's not super hard to figure out what exactly you're supposed to be doing because on every single level, you're pretty much just walking to the right. Up next is Animal Crossing, and this one requires the most reading comprehension of any of them that I've talked about so far, but I think this game would be really good for somebody who's young and still learning to read, but it still doesn't require very much. Animal Crossing is nice because you get to inhabit your own island where you get to meet villagers, make friends, play little games, and you get to grow and sell different kinds of fruit and decorate your home and do all this stuff, and it's a fun little game. The downside, I would say, probably of Animal Crossing is that there's only a certain amount of stuff you can do each day. If Animal Crossing is your only game that you have, you're probably not going to get more than 30 to 45 minutes of time out of it each day, because you go around, you clean up your island, you pick some fruit, you talk to your villagers and kind of see what they're up to. You can go around and visit other people's islands too if you want, but that's pretty much it. And then finally, this is probably the biggest one in this new players category, and that is a current Pokemon game, which right now would be Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, or Pokemon Legends ZA, which just came out. And unlike the rest of the games in this section, Pokemon does require quite a bit of like reading and understanding of like what's going on. For some reason, that doesn't stop kids when they're interested in getting into Pokemon. It seems like they just have like a sense of like how Pokemon works. But I would say if the person you're getting stuff for is into Pokemon and they don't have one of those games, I think those are a really great choice. Scarlet and Violet have a whole bunch of DLC that's been released, a lot of like post-game content that you can buy separately. And then Pokemon Legends ZA just came out, so they might do more content for it, or they might just kind of move on to the next thing. I'm really not sure. Now it's time to talk about games that I call this section mass appeal. Games that I think are good for like most people. And what that means is that they have at least like a probably first or second grade reading level, and are interested in some minor, and it might have some like minor strategy, and these stray away from being like too difficult. The first one, I feel like the obvious one here, is any 3D Mario game, and there's quite a few of them actually available on Switch. There's Super Mario 3D All-Stars, which is a triple pack of Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy. There's also the newly released Super Mario Galaxy 1+2 bundle, and I think those would be great for people who are probably still like getting into video games, and wouldn't really consider themselves like a master of video games yet. But what's important here is that they're able to kind of interact with characters and kind of read stuff and comprehend what's going on and listen to instructions. And then there's some more fine-tuned stuff as far as like timing and precision and that kind of stuff as well. Next up is Spyro the Reignited Trilogy. This one actually, I think, is one of the cheaper games on this list, even new when it came out in 2018. I think it was only $40, and it includes 3 remade Spyro games. And if you're not familiar with Spyro, Spyro is a little purple dragon, and basically in this game, dragons are turned to stone, and for some reason Spyro wasn't turned to stone, and so you just have to go around the different worlds and collect gems and stuff and turn the dragons back into dragons. Next up is Pikmin 3. And really any of the Pikmin games will do. All 4 Pikmin games are available on Switch, and these ones lean a little bit more into like a strategy, like puzzle type game. But I do think that they're simple enough that literally anybody should be able to pick it up and have a good time with it. Pikmin 3 was originally on the Wii U, and it was re-released on Switch, and it has a more modern control scheme, and it also makes it a little bit easier to like rewind and redo parts of the game as well, which is pretty inviting for new players. Next is Metroid Prime Remastered. And this one, I wasn't sure if I should put this in the mass appeal or the skilled players section. I ended up putting it in mass appeal for a couple of reasons. One, I don't think this game is very difficult. 2, you're not really doing hardcore aiming or stuff if you play with the classic controls. And I played this game when I would have been 6 years old playing this game on the GameCube when it came out originally. So I think that's probably fine to put in this section. I do kind of have to warn you a little bit here that of all the games in this mass appeal section, this is probably the one that requires the most amount of like reading and like problem and like puzzle solving. That you're going to be like reading logbooks and scanning enemies and doing all this stuff to figure out like enemy weaknesses, how to defeat bosses, where to go next, and all of this other stuff. But I do also think the game is pretty generous about if it feels like you're not moving in the right direction, it is pretty generous in being like, hey, this area over here is where you should probably be going. Next up is every Zelda game. There's a handful of Zelda games available on Switch. I would say probably Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are most accessible for new players. Then probably Echoes of Wisdom, and then probably Link's Awakening, and then probably Skyward Sword. If they like more combat and exploration style games, I would stick to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. A game like Echoes of Wisdom, it's a little bit easy and a little bit too like puzzle focused. Next is Luigi's Mansion. All 3 Luigi's Mansion games are available on Switch. In this fun little series of games, you play as Luigi, and in the first game at least, you play as Luigi, and you won the lottery and were gifted a mansion. And so you go to check out your mansion, and you find out that it is haunted by ghosts, and it's all around just a really fun game. This is really like Nintendo making like a horror game for kids. But not just for kids, because I'm 30 years old and I like it. And next is actually a third-party pick, and this one is The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. And so this one is fun. This one, playing it on Switch is fun because you have like, there's little Easter eggs and stuff thrown in from like Nintendo games. And I also just think that Skyrim is very approachable as a game, and that there's so many different options in the way that you can create your character and kind of like live your life in the game. As far as like Western RPGs go, Skyrim is about as good as it's going to get on Switch. I've got 3 more for mass appeal, and all of these are on Switch 2. The first one is Donkey Kong Bonanza, and the reason this one ends up in this section is because towards the later end of the game gets a little bit difficult, a little bit more difficult than I would recommend for like a first-time video game player. Next is Hogwarts Legacy, and so Hogwarts Legacy is available on Switch 1, but the Switch 1 version of the game is really bad, so I wouldn't recommend the Switch 1 version of Hogwarts Legacy, but the Switch 2 version of Hogwarts Legacy is really good. And then finally, Star Wars Outlaws is available on Switch 2. This one I would probably recommend if you're into Star Wars. It's not a great story and not great gameplay, and really not great characters either, but the world that they created is really cool and it feels like Star Wars. And then one reason to play the Switch 2 version is that when you buy this game on Switch 2, the gold edition of the game, which would include all of the paid DLC and stuff, is just included in there. And they include it all at the price of just a normal game at $60. And so then that does bring us to our section for skilled players. First up is Hades and Hades 2. These games are great. Hades is a roguelike, which means every time you die, you start the game over from the very beginning, kind of. And the reason that I think that this is good for skilled players and not so much mass appeal is that because if somebody is not used to like build crafting, and this could be actually a pretty difficult game. There's also a really high amount of reading that you're going to need to do. Most of the game, I think, is voice acted, but the thing that kind of pushes it over the edge for being for skilled players or like more like locked in players for me is that you're going to have dialogue with characters, and once they've said that thing, they're never going to say it again. So you kind of have to be like locked in and paying attention the entire time, which is different from some of the games that were in the mass appeal section where you go and talk to a character and whatever they just told you would be written in like a quest log, or if you go and talk to them again, they would just say the exact same thing over again. That's not going to be happening in Hades and Hades 2. Next is Mario plus Rabbids, and there's actually 2 of these games. There's Kingdom Battle, which is the first game, which has a fun Donkey Kong DLC, and then there is the Sparks of Hope. And the reason that these games kind of end up in this more like skilled, like locked in player section is because they are not like action games. They're strategy games, which means a bulk of the time you're going to be kind of thinking about what you need to do next and kind of seeing that and comprehending that and understanding like how you should upgrade certain characters in certain ways to create synergy amongst your team could be difficult for newer players. Up next is Metroid Dread. Metroid is a very classic sci-fi 2D game where you end up where you explore large maps and fight lots of different enemies. The reason that I say that this is for more skilled players is because this game can get kind of hard. Figuring out what it is to do can be kind of difficult at times. And then also there's sections of this game that will require a high amount of like timing and precision, which are like not things that I would really recommend for like open like mass appeal. Next up is Metroid Prime 4. This game's actually not out yet. This one comes out I think December 5th, maybe December 4th. But the reason this one is in this skilled section is because I don't know how hard the game is going to be. If the game's not too difficult, it could probably be a mass appeal game, but that would probably come down to the more like intricate level design, balancing, and the way the different weapons work, and stuff that's a little bit kind of into the nitty gritty for me to explain in this video. Up next is Paper Mario. And there's a couple different Paper Mario games available on Switch. One of them is Paper Mario The Origami King, and then one of them is Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. And I think either of those would be available, or I think either of those would be a solid choice to give somebody as a gift. Another thing, once again, to keep in mind is that those are strategy games, and those are not platformers like other Mario games. They're turn-based strategy games, which can be a little bit difficult or a little bit boring for some players who aren't really into that. I would also probably put Super Mario RPG in there, which was released on Switch as well, for all of the same reasons. Ooh. And finally, Cuphead. Cuphead is a really good game for anybody that wants a challenge. You play as Cuphead or Mugman, and it's really great to play co-op. The bulk of the game is based around like bosses. This game is very difficult. This game requires you to have a lot of patience and a lot of you're going to be spending a lot of time kind of studying bosses and kind of seeing what kind of motions they do, so that you can like recognize patterns and stuff. And that kind of stuff might be a little bit tough for somebody to get into who is wanting like constant like new experiences and stuff. And I should probably go ahead and say Cuphead is probably a little too hardcore for me. I never beat Cuphead. I got tired of fighting the same boss over and over again and dying. All right, we have made it to the end section here where I'm going to talk about games that you're going to want to avoid. And some of this is more like general guidance from the top of the video too. And I do want to reiterate from the beginning earlier that the best gift that you can get somebody is whatever they ask for. So if there's a game in this list that I say sucks and that you shouldn't get it for somebody and they ask for that specific game, go ahead and get it for them. And that being said, if there is a specific game that you're wondering about that I haven't talked about in this video, go ahead and leave it in the comments, and I will do my best to answer every single comment. So, games to avoid. The Batman Arkham trilogy runs pretty poorly on Switch, so you should probably just avoid those altogether. The games 1-2 Switch and Everybody 1-2 Switch. Those are just kind of like a series of mini games that look like they're supposed to be fun, but I don't think they are. First off, they're not fun, and even if they are fun, they stay fun for like 5 seconds. So I would recommend not getting that. I would recommend avoiding old Pokemon games like Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, Sword, Shield, Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. Any of them that are not the current Pokemon game, which would be Scarlet, Violet, or ZA, avoid. Kingdom Come Deliverance. Kingdom Come Deliverance is a great game. Not on Switch, though. On Switch, it looks terrible. You can't even tell like what's going on. The colors are washed out, and the characters' faces are like smushed together and like blurry. And then kind of the same thing goes for Witcher 3. Witcher 3 I would avoid on Switch because it runs poorly, and then Ark Survival Evolved, kind of the same thing there, that it just runs poorly. I would avoid I would avoid Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour, which is basically like a digital manual on how to use Nintendo Switch 2, which is pretty much as ridiculous. It's a cool game. I liked it, but I don't think I would have wanted to get it as a gift. I would probably avoid most of the Mario sports games or Mario Olympic games. And I would throw in here any type of educational game. Unless somebody asks for like an educational game, I probably wouldn't get it for them because there's a pretty good chance that they're just going to think it's kind of boring and not really what they wanted from a video game. I would avoid getting somebody accessories, like a Switch carrying case or an extra controller or anything like that, unless they ask for it, especially like the cheap, like off-brand controllers and stuff. If somebody does ask for a controller, I would recommend getting an officially licensed Nintendo controller, either a official Nintendo controller or a licensed Nintendo controller. And then the final thing that I would say probably avoid is that if somebody has a game that they like, so if somebody has Breath of the Wild on Switch 1 and they just got a Switch 2, like, don't get them the Switch 2 version of Breath of the Wild, because that's not going to feel like a new game to them. Guys, that's all I have for today. In the comment section, please let me know what games you would recommend or recommend avoiding this holiday season. And then also, like I mentioned earlier, if you have any questions about any specific games, drop them in a comment as well. Until next time, the best way to keep up with me is right here on YouTube. Thanks for watching.